The life of a furry tends to be quite hard at times. Even if this community is just a hobby, many of us live in a world of fantasy where the outside world and all its dangers seem to sway away somehow. In a world like this, the furry fandom appears as a beacon of hope for most furries whose lives are either stressful, lonely, or simply too grey. And if you want to talk about colors, hi everyone, this is Zyly the Fox, and welcome to a brand new video. Life in general is hard. I am an adult, and dealing with the everyday grind is exhausting. And really uneventful most of the time too, I dare say. The furry fandom has been a sort of big escape in my own experience, and I am truly happy I am a furry, even if it's brought some problems in other aspects of my life, like professional and interpersonal. But at the end of the day, the color I've mentioned before gives back life to life itself, if that makes any sense at all. I know this is a bit personal, and not many live the furry fandom experience in the same way, but there are common grounds where our perception of life through the furry lens meets, and we understand why we all feel so good being the same birds of a feather. If you've been part of this community for a while now, and you happen to live an active fandom-oriented life, chances are that you have attended a furry event, like a fur meets, a furry party, or a furry convention, the latter of which should be the main thesis in this sort of essay-like monologue. A furry convention generally takes place during a series of 2 to 5 days inside a hotel, where activities like panels, parties, and the setting of merch takes the focus of its attendees. Yet, alongside the fuzz, buzz, and these sorts of organized chaos these days bring along, many find a space to make meaningful connections. The social aspect of a furry convention therefore has a strong impact on whoever attends these events. The power of hanging out in con spaces has taken the primary focus of furry conventions nowadays, to the point sometimes have emerged to describe social phenomena, like ghosting furry conventions, or how we call it in Spanish-speaking context, the lobby-con experience. My stance on ghosting conventions or just attending the lobby is quite negative. In order to avoid a potential video topic, I am not going to talk about it yet, but I see the point in how important it is for others. Seeing your all-time pals is a core pillar in the fandom, which is why I wanted to make this video in the first place. Conversely, I may sometimes pass as antisocial when it comes to furry conventions, and I am fully aware of that. In fact, I don't go to many conventions, and the ones I've been to, I didn't spend much time socializing, if that's the word I'm looking for. Instead, I only attended panels and bought merch I wouldn't have been able to get hold of hadn't I been to that convention. Now you might be wondering, Zyly, what's a cranky old And yeah, you're absolutely right in having such a wild take. However, my first con experience revolved around getting closer to the fandom experience in a more materialistic, kind of I want to see what's out there sort of perspective, if that makes any sense at all, I guess.
It does, 100%.
My mom would always say I'm not a social person and that I pay too much attention to detail. And she was right. But I also like to experience activities which are only aimed at furry themes. Activities that I wouldn't be able to see at any other theme event like a furry convention could be. And socializing sometimes extends to more, I don't know, common aspects of life. That is to say, I could socialize in any other context outside a furry convention without actually having to pay for a con ticket. This perspective is highly flawed, and it's now that I realize how mistaken it was. That's why I am changing it for my future con experiences, and it is why this video will take a look at how different con experiences become so important for furries in general. For the sake of this video, I want to organize the analysis in two main categories: the curricular aspects of a convention and the extracurricular aspects, both of which interact and coexist with one another to make the whole furry convention ecstasy much livelier. Before moving forward, I should probably explain what I mean by these two terms. If you've heard what I said before, back in the day I used to focus more on what the convention offered, like a panel or the selling of merch. These are exclusive to the con space and which no one could experience anywhere else but in a furry convention. That is the curricular aspects I want to focus on. Everything that you can see on a fixed plan, say the convention schedule, and that you can attend only if you pay for a badge. Likewise, what happens in between those scheduled moments is everything that falls into the extracurricular category. These side dishes to the convention are as important as the scheduled activities. Although they are not organized by the convention itself, they are often the moments people remember the most once the event is over. Pictures with visitors, hanging out with friends whose geographical impediments make it virtually impossible to meet you anywhere else, or even a wild room party are add-ons to the whole furry convention pack, which, if perfectly aligned with curricular aspects, they will give you this sense of self-actualization, which in turns will make you go, I had the best weekend of my life. And perhaps I dare say the most fascinating thing about these aspects of furry conventions is that neither side can truly exist without the other. You see, the scheduled activities create opportunities for people to meet. These ones help you want to attend an event that interests you in a performative matter, like artistically or just because you like the whole anthro tradition. But on the other hand, those social interactions that come along as a consequence of housing together so many like-minded people give emotional meaning to the activities themselves that were the sole reason for the convention to happen. In sum, I would say that one provides the structure and the core meaning that makes you want to attend, while the other makes the soul and emotion that actually attending the con provides. Naturally, not a single convention will ever be perfect, and that is the best case scenario. Perfection doesn't exist, and the fact that there is a space for improvement will always motivate the con-ops to aim higher. However, if both aspects are so important, what happens when one overshadows the other? I've happened to see conventions only shine for the partying they have, and no one ever cares if the actual con plans happen in time, or if they are actually good activities. But curricular aspects need to be there in balance with the extracurricular activities. For a convention to actually feel special for the community, it has to host both in perfect balance. A convention that focuses exclusively on its curricular aspects may end up feeling somewhat sterile, Imagine attending a convention where every scheduled activity is technically flawless, yet the social aspect is weak. Should there not be people talking, friends meeting in the lobby, or no one actually making memories of those curricular aspects, they will naturally shine at first, but they will vanish into oblivion soon enough. Fortunately, this extreme is almost impossible to achieve, I would say. Human beings are social creatures, and furries are certainly no exception. The simple act of gathering thousands of people who share the same hobby naturally creates opportunities for interaction. The extracurricular aspect will always emerge one way or another. The opposite extreme, however, is a little more concerning. Sometimes conventions become known almost exclusively for the extracurricular side. If you ask attendees why they are going, and many answer that they are just there for the partying or simply to spend the weekend with friends, the convention might be at risk. I must say there is absolutely nothing wrong with any of those reasons. In fact, they are among the most beautiful parts of attending a furry convention. I go to conventions partly because of that too, but the problem begins when the convention itself becomes secondary to the social gatherings surrounding it. After all, room parties are not organized by the convention, and neither are the lobby gatherings, and that is why the extracurricular depends on circumstances that the organizers cannot control but just foster through the curricular. The extracurricular is a core aspect, but it's risky to have this as the only factor that determines if the convention lives or not. For instance, the hotel may change its policies and parties may become restricted, or if the con venue is remote, entire social circles may not have much to do outside the con space and the social experience can become stale. That is why a convention's identity can't rely too heavily on those external factors. It will naturally risk losing the very foundation that allows it to exist in the first place. The curricular aspect provides legitimacy, structure, and sustainability, but in turn, the extracurricular aspect will provide the emotion, the memories, and the human connection. Remove either one, and the entire experience becomes weaker. A healthy convention, therefore, is not the one that chooses between these two worlds. It's one that successfully allows both to coexist, where the stage is created in order to fill it with life, basically. Now, after such a lecture, my question remains, what's the meaningful aspect? What's the color about which I was talking at the very beginning of the video? Curricular activities of a con will always help you feel at home with a hobby, feeling which you might not find anywhere else. Personally, when I attend a convention, I usually try to find arts and crafts in line with the whole anthropomorphic world that I like, and buy merch oriented specifically at my hobby, like a t-shirt or a poster. Curricular activities also give you the chance to get to experience the voice and self-expression of the furry fandom. I love attending creator panels or common interest talks about furry-oriented topics. This is the voice that makes you feel surrounded by, weirdos like you who have something in common to say. And don't even get me started with the, domini aspect of the con, late at night if you know what I mean. But these are the aspects that organizational skills can put together, and that give a space to the extracurricular, an aspect which helps all of us create meaningful memories, connections, and unforgettable experiences. The social aspect of a convention is responsible for the partying, yeah, but also the memes that you see on social media, for example. And last but not least, the friendships you will never forget. In a few days, I will be attending a con. And even if I like the curricular aspects, I am so looking forward to socializing even more. So if you happen to see me around Brazil Furfest, please stop me and say hi. I'm a little shy. This is why these two aspects are what makes furry conventions so important for furries. Many say, yeah, conventions are fun, but that is a big understatement. Conventions are important because they temporarily create a world where being a furry feels normal, feels meaningful, and it's something that we share. When both the curricular and extracurricular sides work together, something rather unique happens. For a brief moment, the hobby stops being something that exists behind a screen and it becomes real. As a result, the things we love are no longer strange, niche, or difficult to explain. They are simply normal, and for a few days, the world becomes a little less grey. That is what makes a convention so meaningful and so important for furries. If you enjoyed today's video, please let me know in the comments. Why do you like attending conventions? And if you haven't yet, which ones would you like to attend? Like and share this video with a friend who might also find conventions quite important. And if you think they might find this video interesting, even better. I'll be reading what you have to say. But for now, I hope to see you all in my next video. As always, take good care of yourselves, everyone. Meow!
Come to Brazil.